Well, that was quite an introduction. My colleague here, Barbara, will be also speaking. But the first thing that I want to just point out is that this Constitution that we have is a national treasure. And it is a treasure that Congress has recognized for many, many years. And what we are going to be discussing today is the Constitution Annotated, which has been a volume that's been in publication for over 100 years. And it is basically authoritative, objective, and nonpartisan. So a little bit of background on how we came here. This goes back to the beginning, the founding era. In 1797, Congress passed legislation to provide for a member of the, every member of Congress to receive a copy of the Constitution. By the 1820s, they had started to add lists of cases to the back of those constitutions and in appendices. By the 1870s, these lists had grown even longer. And by the 1921, move on to another slide, these lists of decisions had become so lengthy that Congress passed additional legislation to provide for a constitution that was annotated with explanations of all the different articles and amendments. That is our own beloved Constitution Annotated. And in 1938, the Library of Congress became responsible for taking care of the Constitution. And this was in the CRS's predecessor institution, the Legislative Reference Service. So we went from a hard-bound print version, which we had, and then in 2019, we launched our digital version. This is a Constitution Annotated online. Hopefully some of you have heard about it. This Constitution Annotated is basically 3,000 pages of annotations, discussions, and summaries of various provisions of the Constitution. Since it launched in 2019, we have had more than 50 million visits and almost 100 million page views. And about 10% of the audience for the Constitution Annotated online comes from overseas. So this website, which is a Library of Congress product, is serving both people across the country, but also around the world to let them know and understand about the constitutional principles that inform our government. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Barbara.
Sure.
Whoops.
Thank you. And so I want to talk a little bit today about how to actually use the Constitution Annotated online. So as you can imagine, you know, thousands of pages of a PDF aren't going to be quite as interesting to maybe look through. So the Constitution Annotated online is supposed to make it a little bit easier for you to access it. So one of the main features is that it's updated regularly. So instead of having to wait for a supplement to come out in, print form, you get to see updates as they're added, sometimes even within 24 hours of a change. Another two things that are really helpful, and I use all the time as a reference librarian, are the search feature and the browse feature. And I'm going to go over both of these in just a second so you can see how they work. But it makes it a lot easier to kind of go directly to the essay that you're interested in, or the article or amendment that you're interested in. Every essay or explanation that you see on the Constitution Annotated online is going to be thoroughly cited. So you're going to be linked to the primary sources that they used to create those items. And then finally, there's a lot of supplemental materials as well. Under resources, and I'll show you where that is, there are many tables that can give you additional information, like what are laws that were struck down by a Supreme Court opinion? What are the different who are the different justices, and when did they serve, and what are their, the cases that they're best known for, etc. We also link to the Library of Congress congressional materials as well. So if you're interested in doing more research at the Library of Congress, you can link directly from there. And the main point of this is to make it more accessible, right? So all of these essays and explanations are going to talk about constitutional issues that have been before the court and are before the court right now. And that's both through the essays and explanations, and also through links to other Congressional Research Service or CRS products. So you guys might know, CRS puts out amazing, amazing reports about things that Congress is interested in at any given time. And if those items are involved in a recent Supreme Court case, we'll also link you to those CRS reports from the Constitution Annotated. And if you're interested in kind of more of what goes into the Constitution Annotated, there's an introduction, and I talk about it a little bit here, where you can actually go through and see kind of the methodologies behind the Constitution Annotated. So I want to walk through the search feature and the browse feature, because I think those are the two main ways you're probably going to access the Constitution Annotated. Probably the search feature is the main one, so I'll start with that one. So I'm just using kind of a basic reference question. If someone's interested in judicial review, for instance. Just a side note, if you're dealing with judicial review issues, you're probably most interested in Article 3, Section 1 of the Constitution, but don't worry, we'll get there in a second. So, I closed it out somehow. I'm at 9. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to hit it that much. All right. I don't know how I did it either. Okay, here we go. All right. Here's the search feature. So the search box is going to be at the top of every Constitution Annotated page. So I have done just a phrase search for judicial review. All right. And here are my search results. Now I have 97 search results. That might be a lot. So what I want to note is that there are ways to filter or refine your results on the side of the page. So, for instance, if you know what article or amendment you're particularly interested in, you could limit to just that. You could also limit to topic areas. So if I'm only interested in, let's say, separation of powers, I could click that and only have those essays that are related to that. All right. And then if I see an article or an essay that I'm interested in, so I know the print is tiny, so I'll read it. It's Marbury versus Madison and Judicial Review. If I want to read that one, all I have to do is click the link there and it will take me to the text. And I'll show you what the text looks like in just a second. But let's first talk about browse. So if I know I'm interested in Article 3 of the Constitution, I just want to go straight there and see what's available. At the top of every Constitution Annotated page, there's going to be a Browse Explanations link. I put it in a box up there. And then on the side, switch this, there's going to be the articles and amendments listed. I'm going to choose Article 3. And then once I choose Article 3, I'm going to get a table of contents of all the essays that are available relating to Article 3. On the side, you'll see if there's multiple sections, I can link directly to the essays on a section of that article. All right? And then finally, if I scroll through, I can see there is my article of interest, Marbury versus Madison and Judicial Review, and all I'd have to do is click on it to get to that essay. All right? So hopefully that's pretty easy. All right? Let's see what the text looks like. All right, so here is the article I keep mentioning. And I want to note a couple things that are going to be kind of at the top of every essay page. First, there's going to be a breadcrumb trail letting you know kind of where you are in the Constitution and letting you know that you can kind of take steps back if you want to make your search more broad. So I'm in this particular essay. If I wanted to step back and see all the essays relating to Article 3, Section 1, I could do that. And I can also see all the essays relating to Article 3 generally. So there's ways to step back. If you scroll down a little, after the title of every essay, you're going to see the text of the Constitution that the essay is referencing. All right? So this is particularly referencing Article 3, Section 1, and we list the language of Article 3, Section 1. And I promised that everything is thoroughly cited, and it is. If you scroll through, you'll see these footnotes. If you click any one of those footnotes, it'll take you down to the bottom of the page where you can actually see the case or the historical document or the report that was used to create not only the essay, but that particular sentence in the essay. The links that you see here to Supreme Court cases and federal court cases. For the Supreme Court cases, we're linking you directly to the Law Library of Congress website where we've digitized a lot of the Supreme Court decisions. If it's a federal court decision, we're probably going to link you out to the Case Law Access Project, which is done by Harvard University. And they've digitized a lot of federal cases as well. All right, and I'll hand it over to Jean.
Thank you.
You got your own.
I got my own. Okay. So there are a couple of things before we finish up here that I wanted to bring your attention to. The first thing is we have pocket constitutions. They're sitting in a box back there if anybody wants to pick some up on their way out. But the pocket constitutions, yes, thank you. The pocket constitutions, if you recall at the very beginning, we said the Constitution Annotated was a book. And the online Constitution is the basically digital version of that book. But what we have done now is we have created a pocket version of the Constitution Annotated, which are in these little books. And what they have is, let's see here, basically inside each pocket constitution there is a QR code. And that QR code will take you to the relevant sections of our online website so that you can find out more, but you can never be far. I'm just going to put these down here. You need never be far from your pocket constitution. You can carry the Constitution with you wherever you go, and you can get to all the information we have on the website instantly using the QR codes. And this is for people who just prefer something that's more tactile than a online digital version. So please help yourself. We're going to be selling them in the bookstore in a month or so, but right now they're all for free, so enjoy. Another thing that we have been working on at the library to sort of enjoy and is our podcast series. So if you get to your Pocket Constitution, there's a QR code on the back of it, which will take you to the Our Constitution podcast series. This series sort of talks about the background of various constitutional provisions. And coming up for this semi-sequicentennial year, I always manage to mispronounce that, the 250th anniversary, we will be having a special treat in that we'll be doing a podcast series going from grievance to self-government and talking about how the Declaration of Independence informs the Constitution. So that is just another sort of fun thing that you can do while enjoying the Constitution to bring it close, near and dear to all our hearts. And I think if you have, any questions with the Pocket Constitution? Yes? That's all right. You can always call the law librarians. The law librarians are always there ready to assist and provide any additional information of finding anything. But we like to think with pride that this Constitution Annotated Online is the most comprehensive online discussion of the Constitution in the world. So we are proud of it. So with that, any questions? Yes.
Hi. This is a quick question for Barbara. It's sort of a two-parter. I don't know much about annotating the Constitution, so I was wondering, has every part of the Constitution been annotated?
Yes.
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 Okay. Does that mean, like, if I click on any random link, there's going to be an essay related to that particular?
And
Yes.
sometimes multiple.
Multiple essays.
So does that mean that each one has already had some kind of case involved, or is it just an essay related to the subject
There
matter?
are some historical essays, so there will be some that are just dealing with kind of how, for instance, that amendment came to be
Yes.
and be ratified.
Right. And I would say, just as an example, because the question you ask is an excellent one,
It
is like if you have a case like the Third Amendment, which is the Non-Quartering Act. The Supreme Court has never actually had a decision that addresses the Quartering Act on point, but there is discussion. I think we have at least 3 essays that discuss with the Quartering Act, its background, its history, and sort of the lower court decisions that have addressed that. So yes, we cover everything in the Constitution annotated. But thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
How do you determine when the site gets updated, and how's that process? Like when a case gets decided, how does that get to you guys?
Yes, when we watch the Supreme Court very, very closely, and when those decisions come down, our first thing is to write them up and update the Constitution. And of course, the Constitution, as I mentioned earlier, this was set up, the Constitution annotated to serve Congress and members of Congress, their staff. So it's really, we feel like our whole reason is to make sure that the Congress, the public, has the most up-to-date information. So we will literally be updating our essays the day that decisions come down, and our object is always to have an updated version posted on the site. One thing that we have, if you go to our introductory materials, is that we have discussions of Supreme Court decisions that address the Constitution that are pending before the court, so that you can actually get a preview of those decisions that deal with constitutional questions that the Supreme Court is considering in that Supreme Court term. But when those decisions come down, our Constitution annotated attorneys are working to update. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dr. Afshan Hashmi, and I'm a media personality, and I didn't register for the media thing, and I want to be part of this and take some interviews. So what is the process there? Because, I called the co-chairs, and they just shunned me out of the process, and I'm member of Library of Congress.
Oh, Barbara?
We'll take that
Yeah.
offline with you later.
Is it a press inquiry?
Well, I think we can take that off
okay.
after
Okay,
this.
we'll take it offline.
Yeah.
But yeah. I knew-
Hello. First, I want to say thank you. I've used the Constitution annotated in some of my constitutional law and American law classes, and it's been really helpful. So my question is, why has it been important for a Constitution annotated to go online in the wake of the digital age, and how do you anticipate that role to evolve or become more important with the rise of AI now?
Well, I think that's an excellent question, so thank you really much, and thank you for the kind compliment.
Glad you're using it.
We feel like the most important thing that people need to understand in this country is the Constitution. That all our law, not only the federal law, but also a huge amount of state law, is determined by the Constitution. And for our government to work the way it needs to work, everybody has to be acquainted, understanding what the Constitution provides, what those protections are, what the duties, the obligations of. So for us, it's really, really important. I think with artificial intelligence, one of the things is going to be, will artificial intelligence deliver information that's objective, authoritative, and nonpartisan? And of course, at the library, that is our sort of major point, is to be providing that objective, authoritative, and nonpartisan information, and having these opportunities like the National Book Festival to make ourselves known is really important, because if artificial intelligence does become as big as it is, we hope people will still be looking at the library's website as a constant and consistent source that can be trusted. Yeah.
And as a reference librarian, I mean, I just have to say, we've had access to the print for as long as, I can imagine. But it's hard to provide that information to someone calling us on the phone who's maybe not even in the U.S. So the Constitution Annotated is really great in that regard, because I can send someone a link and they can literally read it on their end almost immediately. So.
Hello. So my question was, you mentioned that in the annotations that it links to sort of supporting documents, or I'm lacking what I'm looking for. But the question is, outside of sort of the framer documents that go along with individual amendments, do you also link back to any sort of common law or other like older textual references that went into building the individual amendments?
Right. I mean, what we try to do, and we're in the process of always trying to expand and make it a better service, but we link to all the Supreme Court decisions that we cite, all the court decisions we cite. We also link to the Federalist Papers. We're working on being able to link to Joseph Story's commentaries on the Constitution and other sort of seminal kind of works on the Constitution. Ideally, we'd like to be able to link to everything, including relevant, regular, more recent essays on constitutional issues to the extent that we use them. We have a methodology that's set forth on our website that sort of explains how we use sources. But most of our important process is we want to be transparent. We want so that when people want to find out information on the Constitution, not only can they trust us, but they can also look and see what the cases are that we're using to come up with these analyses, read them for themselves, and so that they can say, yes, I agree with how you've analyzed it, or even they can say, no, I read this differently. But the point is that we want to be completely transparent and provide as many tools as we can into the hands of users so that they can understand the law. But excellent question.
Hi. You talked about communicating with people all around the world and providing information and links. So what is the translation and accessibility for all of this documentation?
That's a good question.
Yeah, it's an excellent question. We are actually, and this is just sort of a segue into this, there are places that are translate the service that we do not know. But one thing that we're really, really excited is that the National Library Service has been working on creating versions for people who are visually challenged. And so we're going to start having recordings of the Constitution annotated so that people who have trouble seeing things and clear enough to read them can listen. And one of the things that they're working on first is going to be an audio version of our beloved Pocket Constitution to get everybody sort of started. But that is an excellent question. And I used to, when we first launched, I used to look a lot, and it was interesting because you can find out the statistics as to what languages people are looking at. And it's like a lot in Chinese and the Filipino, Tagalog. I don't know if I pronounce it correctly. But anyways, it's an excellent question. Thank you.
Hello, sorry, I had another question. Kind of going off of that, you said earlier that 10% of visits are from people around the world. So I was just curious if you could go into more depth about what the Constitution Annoted's global reach is and why people around the world, so many people, are using it.
Great. Thank you very much. That's another excellent question. I would say when we look at it, the largest users are people from Great Britain and then Canada. But we also have a huge amount of audience in China. We have a very large audience in the Philippines. We have a lot of people in Africa, in Kenya, which is sort of surprising, a lot in Europe. But we have a huge numbers of people that are looking at the Constitution. And I think it just speaks to the fact that people are genuinely curious about how our government works, needing to understand that.
And the questions we get are just very varied. It's hard to kind of pin it down to one area. But I mean, we have students, we have professors, and also just people who are interested in reading it and knowing what's in there. So it can range, it has a wide range.
Yeah. Yes.
Why is the Constitution so convoluted that we need 3,000 pages of commentary?
I love that question. That's a great question. Why? You know, the framers, when they wrote the Constitution, used very broad and sweeping language. And a lot of that was done intentionally because they were cognizant of the fact that the world was going to change, and so they wanted to have a flexible document. But that means that there's a lot of different ways people can read it. And so we have, you know, literally thousands and thousands of Supreme Court decisions looking at the Constitution. And one of the things that we do as a Constitution Annotated is try to provide an accurate historical picture of how the interpretations of the Constitution have evolved over years and over time. So you can literally sort of understand that, you know, it's sort of an ongoing process of constitutional interpretation as new events come up and new interpretations are required, new understanding of the meaning of the language. Thank you.
Hi, Barbara. You spoke a little bit about browsing topics and search topics. What happens if I don't have a name for what I'm looking for, or if it's not the word that's being used in the official documentation?
And that's definitely an issue with law, is that we can call things by many different names. So that's very valid. I would suggest using the keyword search. Because I think that they do use a lot of variety of language in the essays, and I think it would probably pick up what you're looking for. And then ultimately, if you're not finding anything that's what you're thinking of, give us a call. We're happy to talk to you and kind of help you with your research process and kind of figure out maybe what the right words might be that would trigger a keyword search. Yeah, we're happy to do that. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, we want to thank you all really a lot.
you.
Please,
Thanks for coming.
please, very much, please take some pocket constitutions
They
for
are
your
free.
friends, your family members. They're free. They won't always be free, but please take some. And thank you so very much for coming today.